egg. I got to eat something also. I want to make a little video of the seven sins of America and why we have the seven pyramid steps to hate. And it starts from the bottom and it works its way to the top of the pyramid. But I want to start off with Charlie Kirk. Now I know a lot of YouTube and many other social media platforms don't want you to disrespect him. I'm not disrespecting him in any way. I don't know him personally. I just know the things that he has said towards black America, and not just black America, just America, period, and making up lies and trying to say that black people are the ones that make up 50% of crimes in America. And what blows my mind about that is that if you really go back and look at the statistics throughout history, you would know that whites have murdered, raped, and did a lot of things throughout its history ever since they hit the continent nearly 200 to 400 years ago. Because they're trying to say that, the white man came around the 1500s and they settled here, but I believe they've been here nearly over 200 years, about the 1600s. But the thing is that throughout history, throughout war, throughout lynching, throughout violence towards slaves and violence towards Native Americans and forcing Native Americans out of their reservations and forcing them to be poor and be non-existent. Because every time you talk about the Native Americans, people just don't acknowledge them. You will acknowledge the slaves of blacks for some reason, but I always want to know why we don't acknowledge the Native Americans, because I respect the Native Americans 100 billion%, and I will always respect them. I will always respect people that come from other countries and try their best to live in this country, to try to build this country into a country that honestly was supposed to be built through religion, but now is built through hate. Now, the first stepping stone of the pyramid is, the Karen, the one that actually will tell on you if you're walking down the street minding your own business and you're in a white neighborhood and you live in this white neighborhood and you're walking down the street and a Karen comes out of nowhere and asks where you live, why you here. And the Karen is created to actually picked with black people, and not just black people, other cultures of, probably, if you are a Mexican or a Native American or a Chinese or a Japanese or anybody that does not belong in their mind in that neighborhood, they will pick with them and call the cops on them and lie to get them arrested, to be taken out their neighborhood. It's such a horrible thing that we have these people that do things like that. Then the second stepping stone of the pyramid is, I believe, is always going to be hate, racism, because racism did not exist in a child. It only exists in an adult. And an adult always are going to teach hate to their children. And this is going throughout history because, like I said, people don't know their own heritage and don't know nothing about their history because they erase their history from their minds because they don't want to be part of that, history of hate. Even though that we had slaves here, the Native Americans, the Mexicans, or any other indigenous people that came from other countries here, and the white man and the white woman had ran this country to the ground and try to force it to be all white, which this country could never be. And I always will say this a trillion times: this country will never be white. This country has never been white because it has been mixed throughout history, even though the Europeans came from Europe to this land, which I tell white people all the time that when y'all came to this land, y'all didn't even know where y'all were because y'all were in the ocean for 12 months and y'all were actually dying on these ships because you were dying from diseases, rats, and all different other things that were on the ships that you were bringing to the new land. And once you got to the new land and the Native Americans seen y'all, the Native Americans attacked. And the Native Americans didn't want you here because why would they want people that they have never seen in their life of a different color come to their land? Like I made Like I made a video before about these indigenous people in other lands around the world that have these little small little islands, and people are going to these islands. The white men are going to these islands, and they're getting their planes bombarded with spears and rocks and stones, because these indigenous people do not want anybody to know they exist, and they want to keep their own land and don't want no white man to come and take their land from them, because they understand, and they think indigenous people don't know what's going on outside. And they do. They know what happened to the Native Americans. They know what happened to the Africans. And I always will say this, that I can't just blame white people for slavery, because I have to go to the Arabs, because the Arabs also are the ones, were honestly the first, the one that had African slaves before the Europeans and Portuguese, and also many others, the Dutch, had slaves. Now, we could also talk about the other steps of the pyramid: pure hate, and not letting people have their own opinion on social media. People today hate that people that have their own opinion on social media. Even if their opinion is wrong, they will say that hateful things towards people that have their own opinion. They will try to destroy their opinion by putting up fact checks. But honestly, and I always say this, if you went to school, when I went to school during the 80s and 90s, and you were taught history, you will learn the history of the United States, and also understand what happened with the Europeans coming here to take the land from the people that were already here, and learn facts that was taught to you through history when I was young. But throwing up these fact checks, blocking people, people yelling and hollering at you, cursing you out, telling you to shut up, telling you that you're wrong, and all these other things. Most people don't even know their own history to tell somebody that they're wrong. And the hateful thing about being on social media, some people are afraid to speak their mind, because not just because of social media being feared, like YouTube and many other social media sites that will block you or force people to not watch your video. It's been going on for a very long time. That's one of the steps of the pyramid, is pure hate on social media, trying to not let people have their rights and their amendments to be out there, to be able to voice their own opinion about things that are going on in the world, which I really think that's wrong. And the next step of the pyramid is terrorism. And terrorism has been going on a very long time, not including the South, even up in the North, the Midwest, and many other places that terrorism is going on, but it's been hidden because they don't want you to know who the real terrorists are. And I'm not just saying that white people are doing the things that they still continue to do after slavery, and not just that during the South and lynching and many other things they have been doing. Now, always will say that these people that are doing these things don't wear the white suits no more, don't wear the white face masks. They wear suits like ties, slacks, shoes, and they also wear the nice watches and drive the nice cars. And they have their jobs in these big, humongous marble buildings, and they write down things for people to do, like FBI, police, and many other people that are doing terrorism on black people. Like they will go into only black neighborhoods, and black neighborhoods are only ones that have cops in these neighborhoods. They don't go to white neighborhoods. They don't go to any other neighborhood. But you see more cops. You see the FBI. You see all these different type of people that wear these suits and have guns go into these black neighborhoods and arrest black people for no reason by taking them out their cars or pointing guns at them and shooting them for no freaking reason and locking them up. And even if they did do a crime, they'll plant stuff on them to make make them go to jail for a long period of time. More black people go to jail and stay in jail because they can't make the money to get out of jail, or they will be the only ones going to jail to actually serve more life sentences than white people. White people don't go really honestly get the death penalty more than black people do. White people really don't go to jail. It's really honestly tied with 32% with blacks and whites going to jail. You got others. And the Hispanics also are actually being thrown in jail for no apparent reason because of hate, terrorism in this country. Because terrorism is part of why white kids today are carrying guns and they're shooting up schools, they're shooting up restaurants, they're shooting up churches, they're shooting up supermarkets. It's crazy. You could go to about Walmart. You could go to the school shooting that happened at the same time that Charlie Kirk got shot in Colorado. We could go to the other school shootings that happen in colleges and many other places that are happening through white terrorism. These kids are being taught how to kill at a young age, to have guns in their rooms, that have pictures of them having guns walking around in the streets while cops don't even stop them because they said, well, you are having the right to carry a gun. But if a black man does that or a black woman does that, they are going to be stopped and they're going to be frisked or they're going to go to jail because they're carrying a gun and say they're not right to, they have no right to carry. And you see these white boys, young 15-year-olds, going out and trying to defend their parents because their mom and dad love Donald Trump or love some type of radical racist, and they said, well, my mom loves these people, how dare you hate them, and they'll still shoot up people because they are turning radical because their parents are radical. And the next step on the pyramid is just pure racist towards any other culture that comes into this country, because I don't understand how the Europeans, which I call them always Europeans, will always step on the toes of everybody else that come here and believe that this country is theirs, and this country was never theirs. They're immigrants as same as any other culture that comes here. Like, you can't come into a continent and think that you can just take over. Like, if you go to another country like Europe, or you go to Australia, you go to Canada, they will treat you just like a immigrant because you are an immigrant. So how is it that you can say that you're not an immigrant of this country when you took a boat and you crashed your boat onto this land, or you had your ship sitting there and trying to figure out what we could do with this land, and now you see the people there and you take the steps to get off the boat to try to say, well, we can make these people friends, but we need to make sure that we make these people look so evil. How can you make the Native Americans look so evil? The trails of tears was so bad that they walked Native Americans across the United States and forced them into reservations. Abraham Lincoln went into Florida, snatched up a whole bunch of Native Americans because the Native Americans didn't want to leave Florida, and he hung them. It's crazy how racism, as like these steps of the pyramid, exist, and you have the hierarchy, like the rich of the riches are the ones that control everything, and while the black poor look. And now I'm not saying everybody's not poor, because you have some Irish that are poor, you have some Italians that are poor, that are poor in the United States. But the thing is that you have the hierarchy of the richest of the richest is trying to take everything from us just because they fear us more than any other culture. How is it that black people are more feared than any other culture? It doesn't make any sense. Like, we never did anything to anybody except allow the Europeans to come into our kingdoms in Africa and give us a religion and force us into slavery. And not just them, the like I said, the Arabs did the same thing. They forced us into slavery, and they also forced us to read the Quran. And now we are lost in religion, and that's another step of the pyramid, is religion. We are forced as black people to follow a religion that was never ours, and us black people try to keep the religion to make it our religion, because we think that the religion will help us, because we don't have no type of followers, like we don't have no type of leadership, because all our leaders were assassinated or all our leaders went to jail, and we had no other following except following, the God, the Lord, whatever you want to call him. You want to call him Jesus, you want to call him Jesus, you want to call whatever, you want to follow the prophet, or you want to follow Muhammad. You want to follow these fucking religions that was given to us by the people that enslaved us and forced us into these religions by keeping us as slaves. And then we had to take the religion and we had to make it ours. But now black people are trying to make it our own. Like, we are actually trying to take a religion from the people that created it, and we're trying to make it our own religion. Which I think one of the steps of the pyramid is really, really dangerous, is religion, because religious war might come, and black people can't fight a religious war they don't understand. Just because just a reverend tells you that he is part of God, we believe that he is. Just like we believe the Pope is part of God, which he is not, because it's nothing but a religious scam to force us to force us to pray and get on our knees like we pray to some type of gods that been around for thousands of years, but we only turn to one and we try to take their pages and make it our own God. We try to make God black. We try to make Jesus black. We try to make a color barrier between religion, and that's one of the steps of the pyramid. But on top of the pyramid, the last step of the pyramid is the richest of the richest, the ones that rule the country, the ones that tell blacks and all indigenous people that we need to leave the country. They're the ones that are building ground to make us leave the country. Like they're telling us that we're bad people, we're murderers, we're rapists. But the ones that are billionaires and trillionaires are the ones that fund racist radicals. They're the ones that fund fear. They're the ones that are taking our welfare, our child care, separating them from school, redlining us. We can't even go out there and protest without fear. So the rich will make sure that we can't even protest. And black people are the only ones that can't protest. And even if we do, we are looked at as terrorists. We are looked at as the ones that go and riot. But they forgot about Tulsa. They forgot about Redwood. They forgot about how they built highways through black neighborhoods. They forgot all about them things, but they don't want to talk about that things. But even when people bring it up, they want to ignore it like it never happened. Like they want to talk about how they firebombed and how they went through they fire not just firebomb, they just went through our neighborhoods and try to steal take because they were so jealous of us. We could talk about how they didn't want blacks to vote. They will go and riot and tear down black voting booths because they didn't want black people to vote for their white fucking president. And to this very day, they do the same thing, believing that black votes don't count because the limit of black votes, because there's only 13% of blacks in the country. That's really small to like at least 60% of the country being fucking white, and you got the fucking you got the Spanish that actually outweigh the blacks. So we're a small group, and honestly, we could actually go extinct with the snap of a finger, which they actually are trying to do. They're trying to extinct black people, but they're trying to take our sperm, and they're trying to take our women to actually keep white people, you know, you know, keep them to have children because they're not having children like they used to, because their children are dying at a young age from diseases and many other things. That's another thing of a pyramid of steps of diseases, and also things that they blame black people for dying for. They blame us for diseases. They blame for COVID. They blamed us for many other viruses that they almost try to blame us for the Spanish flu. They try to blame us for everything. They even blame the Native Americans for smallpox. Christopher Columbus, tried to actually blame Native Americans for smallpox. It's crazy. See, like I said before, YouTube does not want people to actually hear these things because they don't like the fact that if you talk about somebody, like I put Charlie Kirk on there because he is one of the evilest people on the planet. I don't give a damn what anybody say to me. How do we celebrate racism? How we celebrate hate? How we celebrate a man that actually really did not give a flying fuck about black people? He talks so bad about black people, how black people should not be able to be anything. He still talked about us being slaves. He talked about us being the 50% of the ones that murder and do a lot of crime. And that's not even the truth. And the facts will even show if you go into the archives and actually look up facts. Like, stop looking at these fact checks that they want to pop up on your screen, because the only reason why they want you to look at fact checks because they don't want you to know the real truth, because fact checks are not even the truth. Like I said, if you've been taught this stuff in high school, throughout history in high school, how can you tell me that I am lying about anything that I'm saying, unless they made up this shit? Because they can rewrite the internet, because they can rewrite shit like they can rewrite the Bible. They can do anything they want. Only thing they do is click a couple of buttons and rewrite history to tell you that you're wrong, but even know that you're right. They hate that you tell the truth. That's the reason why they fact check you. Because when they fact check, like, goddamn, I just said that. Because they try to fact check me a couple of times. I read the fact check. I'm like, hold on, I just said that shit. Like I just said the same exact thing. So why you fact checking me? And I can go into the history books and look the same fucking thing up that you trying to fact check me from. So why are you trying to fact check me when you know history is really telling you in the history book? So you telling me the history books are lying then? You tell me the history books are lies if you're going to fact check me? And I'm telling you the same thing that I have learned from high school when they taught me history about the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians. They taught me about racism. They talk about slavery. They taught me about everything in high school. Why do you think I learned most of the stuff in high school? Because I loved history class. So why would you fact check? Because that's the only thing that they would do. And they hate the truth. So that's the reason why that they put these little things up to make you feel like you're stupid. And that's why you got all these different like YouTube and many other platforms that will actually take away your opinion and destroy it. That's why I says one of the pyramid blocks is your voice of your own opinion that people really hate. They will try to destroy you by saying really hateful things towards you, racial things towards you, just because don't want you want to tell the truth, but they don't like the truth. And white people don't like you talking about them. They want you to love them and like them. And I don't have no hate towards white people because my daughter's mother is white, and I don't have no hate towards her because I even said that she doesn't even know her history, which she tries to put black people down. You don't know your history. You can never say anything bad about people when you don't even know about your own history and what you did, or you know your history, but you are afraid to talk about your history because you know your history is bad. They know slavery was the worst time in human history. They know the Native Americans had the worst time in human history. The Mexicans had the worst time in human history because the Europeans fought the Native Americans. The Europeans fought the Mexicans. They even fought the Africans because they went into Africa and fought them, like to terrorize them and force them into religion and to take their land. Europe still owns Africa. Even America has a part of Africa. It's been going on for at least about 300 to 400 years that black people has been suffering. And we as black people don't understand what suffering is because we think we're living in a free country. But honestly, we are still going through the same thing that happened in the 1900s on down from the civil rights movement until right now as black people are suffering every single day because the job, not having getting a job, not having the proper care, welfare, child care, food stamps is being taken away from us. They want to force us into working when half of the people that don't have jobs are illiterate. And blacks are trying to go to school but can't go to school because they're closing the schools, they're closing the trades, they're making black people go back to what they used to, being split apart from the whites. They have the whites that have the better schooling and the blacks have the white schooling. Like I always say, they always teach black people different than they teach white people. They don't teach white people the same thing they treat black people. Black people are taught differently in a different history than they were teaching white people. White people are taught finances, money. They're taught how to save, how to buy, how to steal, how to lie. Blacks are taught just slavery. That we're taught how to worship our king, our slave owners. That's what we are worshiping. We're still worshiping the same thing that we did. That's why we worship God, because God is at the same thing as the white man. It was always created to make us look like we are getting on our knees and praying to a God, and that's what we do because we have no leadership. We have nobody because everybody's dead. Everybody's locked up, and the leaders that try to speak out for them, they'll close them off and they'll never be seen again. And like I said before, they want to talk about us doing so much crime. Yes, we have to do the things that we do to survive. And this will happen if money disappears or, we need to eat. We need to survive. What are we going to do? We ain't going to start being nice to people. We're going to go and take what we can take because we got to survive. Like, what if it's a nuclear war or we survive a nuclear war? We have to steal. We have to go and we have to eat and survive. What if it's a civil war? What if it's a war and people have to look like we're looking like Germany and we have to go out there and eat? We have to go out there and survive. So we're going to go and steal. We're going to go and do things stupid because we're going to have to survive. And that's what really cracks me up about being a black man. Now, they say light skinned people have a better chance of survival than darker people. And I think that's wrong. I think us black people, black is black. I don't give a fuck if you're light skinned. I don't care if you're lighter than the lightest. If you got blood black in you, you're black. And I believe that light skinned people are treated the same. It's just that you don't see it as much because they want to believe that light skinned people have claimed themselves as white, and we never did. We never did. They try to force us to claim us as white people, and we will never ever claim ourselves as white. We will always claim ourselves as black because I know I'm black. I know I'm a black man, and I will look at myself in the mirror every fucking day, knowing that I'm a black man. I'm just a lighter skin color. You know what I mean? Because my father's the same complexion as me, so I'm a lighter skin color, but I'm still a black man. I know because I have been stopped by cops. I have been has been mistaken identity. I have been put in cop cars. You know what I mean? I had my mother almost had me locked up for the things that I did wrong, bad, that I almost was been locked up. You know, I have been stopped plenty of times by cops. You know what I mean? And I have been pulled over, and I have been had like 3 or 4 or 5 cops at my car looking at me strange, thinking I have a gun and all other kind of stuff. Though they didn't pull me out of my car because I had my license registration for the car, but I've been stopped by a black cop that told me that I had my music too loud. And I didn't have my music too loud. He even told me that, yeah, I like your car. You know, you can drive around in a nice car, but you know, you can't have your music loud. I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck does he keep saying that I had my music loud and I never had my music loud? It's a lot of things that go on with us as blacks. And people will say, oh, why are you just saying that? You shouldn't be just, you know, that's not fair. It is fair. It is fair. You can see the treatment of us. Why are people blind and trying to say that we've never been mistreated? Why are we as black people looking at ourselves and saying, God damn, why do we keep bringing up the past? Because the past always repeats itself and it's never going to stop because racism will never stop. And racism is a choice. Is that you don't have to be racist, but you want to be racist because you thinking that that's part of life. And black people are the ones that are persecuted more than any other culture because we are the ones that were slaves, actual slaves. Native Americans wasn't slaves. They were forced into different places around the country. And yes, a lot of their women probably was taken away or given away because they wanted to keep their land. But the thing is, blacks were the ones that were actually walking around in the South, the North, the Midwest, doing a lot of things to make money for the white man. We built this country from the ground up, not just blacks, but many other cultures that came into this country. Even during the purchase, we tried to purchase land to, you know, many cultures that came here try to purchase land to actually build this country into a mixed country. But the Europeans did not want that. They wanted the country for themselves. And they thought that they could create this country into an all white country, which, like I said, it never is going to happen. This planet is a mixed planet. And you got to understand where blacks came from Africa up into Europe. And they, you know, from Europe, they came to the United States and also Canada and also many other places around the world through Asia and Australia and Brazil, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Barbados, all these New Zealand, all these continents that black people went to, and they actually, you know, put their seeds into the countries, but other cultures that came from out of nowhere, like the Europeans came from the mountains and they came down and they actually worshiped blacks at first. They actually worshiped us. They actually, you know, wanted to be just like us. Even blacks even helped white people become who they are today. We taught them how to clean themselves, how to get out of their homes when they were living with their animals. They were up there sleeping with their animals, with their children. Blacks, even called the Moorish Muslims, actually got them out of being what they are, taught them how to wash themselves, how to brush their teeth, how to keep themselves clean. And the whites actually appreciated the Moorish Muslims at first until the Moorish Muslims started dying out. Then the Europeans started saying, you know what, we can take over these black people because these black people are We want to make sure they don't look like they're good people. We're going to look like they're savages and animals. So basically, they started going into the continents and started taking over the continents and kingdoms that blacks had and started forcing them to be slaves. Or Africans will go to war with the Europeans, which they don't talk about. That Africans actually went to war with the French, the Irish, and also the Portuguese and the Dutch, and also the Romans. They went to war with them to keep their land, but they didn't have the weapons that they had. So they had to surrender their land. A lot of them didn't surrender their land. Only after their kings or their queens died did the Europeans will go in and take over the land. Like, Constantine, the Muslims did the same exact thing. They went into Africa and took Egypt and tried to bomb actually the pyramids with dynamite because they didn't like the way the pyramids looked. So they tried to bomb them, but it wasn't successful. So they left them there. So they started lying and saying that they were the true Egyptians, knowing the Africans were true Egyptians. And then you had the Europeans go into Africa, take over Africa, like the Romans and the Greeks will actually say that they're the ones that were the true Egyptians, the true pharaohs, but there's no history of them being ever in Egypt 6,000 years ago because they didn't even exist 6,000 years ago. So, another thing of the pyramid of racism, of trying to change history throughout Egypt and throughout Kush and throughout all Africa, knowing that the Europeans came there with a cross and also came with a marble Jesus and bringing to the continent and forcing Africans into a religion, or not forcing Africans into a religion, but lying to the Africans and telling them that you can use this religion and make this religion part of your kingdom, knowing that Africans did not speak their language, so they didn't have great translators because they try to use translators to talk to the Africans, and the Africans didn't really understand, but they allowed the Europeans to bring that cross into their kingdom, and they started the Christianity part and saying that Africa was always Christian. It was never Christian because Africans never believed in one God, but they forced them to believe into one God. And the easiest thing that it was really easy for them to do that because once they did that, they had an opportunity to say, you know what, we could take this land, we could take this kingdom from them, we could destroy their kingdom and make them not exist. And that's what they did. They tried to destroy their kingdom with war. Then they enslaved the people, even the kings and the queens, that they said, well, they gave their own people away. You gotta look at it. A lot of Africans did, but they did it out of moderation of getting trade. So if they trade an African for a spear or a knife or a gun, because guns did exist around that time. So Africans had guns, knives, and spears at the time. They were trading. So they had muskets and shit. So they were trading Africans for these things. But you gotta understand, the Europeans came back and got more Africans, slaves. Even the ones that traded Africans, they even became slaves, kings and queens. And that's the fucked up thing they don't talk about. They try to keep that away, say, oh, Africans traded Africans. Yes, they did. What culture in the world did not trade their own culture? You know what I mean? Because even Europeans had slaves. So, and even the Europeans traded their own people. I mean, even when the Muslims had African slaves, they also had European slaves. They actually really dogged out the European women. I mean, they actually dogged them out. So, I don't understand. Like, people will say, "Oh, yeah, Africans traded for Africans." Yes, they did, and it's the truth. But they did it out of because the country fell. You gotta understand, kingdoms were falling like fucking dominoes in Africa, and so they had to survive. And the only way they could survive is through trade. And they traded people for people, and it has happened. But the Europeans and the Dutch and the Portuguese snatched up the people because I really believe that the Europeans were never in Africa. They're the ones that didn't go and get the slaves. I believe the Dutch and also the Portuguese were the ones that actually enslaved Africans and brought Africans to these places that they could put them in these prisons so the Europeans can come and they could bid or they could trade for the Africans because their boats were sitting right there, so they didn't have to go that far. They went to these little islands off the coast of Africa, and they went to go to get these slaves. I don't believe Europeans ever touched Africa. I believe that the Dutch, the French, also the Irish, also the Portuguese were the ones that actually went into Africa and started rounding up slaves. But certain parts of Africa we don't know because Africa's the largest country in the world, so we don't know what parts of Africa actually were, forced into slavery. But I believe there's a lot of kingdoms that were, and like it's part of the pyramid. Like the pyramid is such a big pyramid of so much shit. Like going through all the pyramid steps, I always thought that one day that the pyramid steps can change into something positive. Like, how can Charlie Kirk could not just be positive and start talking positive about black people and try to unite black people and try to unite all cultures together instead of spreading hate for money? It's crazy. You spread hate for money and you spread lies for money. How you become a man that never went to school, never graduated college, never went to college, and never had a job to become a rich man and know the president of the United States and also use racist slurs and racist bias towards black people, or not just black people, all indigenous cultures, just to make money. He made money off of that. He made money off of hate. It's crazy. And there's going to be somebody else right behind him that's going to do the same thing. They're going to follow the same footsteps as Charlie Kirk. It's a damn shame. I'm not saying that it was right to him to get shot. He should have never got shot. He should have never been murdered by this young man, but he did. And I'm not happy for the way that he was killed. It's not a good thing for a man to actually have a family, get murdered by somebody that just a radical. And he was a young man. He was in his 20s. And he didn't even know what he was freaking doing. He just pointed the gun and shot. And once you shoot that bullet, you can't bring that bullet back. And it made me angry because it's still hate. Even though a man that hated towards other people, he should have never died. I believe Charlie Kirk should have been having a one-on-one fist fight with somebody that's black, because I believe if you want to sit there and talk trash about black people, why can't you stand up to a black man face to face and say that to his face? You can't do that because white people will never ever do that because they have the fear of that black man. They'll pull out a gun and probably shoot him, but they won't fight him one on one because they will never win. And the thing is that it's fear that these motherfuckers are putting in us, and we're trying to just say, okay, we're not trying to have no fear. We're trying to live our lives. We have a short life because us black people don't live long because of, not just because of being sick and all these other things that we're going through. We're going through so much drama and within our own family and our own friends, and the hatred and the terrorism that we're going on with police and many other things that's stopping us and pulling us over and shooting us for no fucking apparent reason and locking us up and putting us in jail for life for some little bit of dust of weed or a little dust of cocaine, or they're trying to put it on us that we are very, very violent people. And the thing is, how can you ever say that about us if you've never been around us? See, white people don't hang around black people, so they don't know nothing about us. They only learn through history, or they learn through CNN, Fox News, or their local news and say, oh my God, black people are so bad. Look what they're doing. They're murdering and killing each other. But they don't look at their history. And their history is so bad of what they had done throughout history with murdering and raping and stealing. They don't want to come back and talk about that. They want to hide that. Like I said with Charlie Kirk, he was hiding the truth because he hate to tell the truth because he can't make money off the truth. You can't make money off the truth. You got to make money off of lies. That's why they want to present lies all the time, because when you get real true facts, or you were taught the history of what really went on, I'd say 300 or 400 years ago, and you're trying to say this is what really happened, they don't want you to know the truth. Like, I'm 50 years old. That's why they're trying to get rid of the older generation, the Generation X, the baby boomers too. They're trying to get rid of us because we know the real history of what really happened in the past. That's the reason why they cut us off. and try to blind us through social media and try to get the younger generation to attack the older generation, saying that you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, how the fuck you gonna tell me I don't know what I'm talking about when I was born in a time that racism was really, really powerful at the time, and hate was always around during the presidencies of presidents, and not just that. I went through the white supremacists of being chased by Ku Klux. I got chased by Ku Klux Klan members before the horses, so I know the history of hate, and hate always will still exist, but we celebrate it. Like, we actually send flowers to people that are hateful. We actually love the president of the United States knowing that he's a pure racist. We love that the Republican Party has been destroying the Democratic Party, or both are fighting each other for some reason, or not trying to get together and learn a pattern to try to help us as people. They're fighting because they're trying to fight for leverage of who's going to be in a seat. That's all they do. The Republican and Democrats are the same party. It's just that these motherfuckers don't wear Ku Klux Klan fucking white suits. They wear suits and they wear ties, and if they're pretending that they're nice and presentable and try to help people in our country, knowing that they don't care because they're rich. You gotta understand these politicians. They are very, very wealthy. They drive nice cars. They live in nice homes. Their kids go to good schools. Their kids will go to good colleges. They're the ones that are pretending that they're going to help people that are poor. They don't care about the poor. They only care about the rich. If the rich can get richer, they're going to help the rich. They're going to pretend that they're going to help the poor. They're going to give little by little to keep the poor, to keep voting for their president, their governor, their senator, their mayor. They have to keep rich people, they got to keep poor people in a loop because they got to have poor people vote. They got to have poor people, they got to make poor people happy by saying, well, if you vote, we'll give you a fucking PlayStation 5. Or we'll give you a flat screen TV. Or we'll give you $200,000 to be in your bank account by the end of the month, knowing they're not going to give you $200,000. They're not going to give you that PlayStation 5. They just want you to have they want you to have that vote, because that's what they did during the time of voting for Donald Trump. They begged people to go out there and vote. They begged blacks to go out and vote, because I always say black people need to stop voting. We need to stop voting. We need to stop voting for these fucking people that are racist and that are hateful, and these aristocrats and these rich motherfuckers that have billions, and we're voting for these people to be in office because we want to have a button on our shirt saying that we voted. And that's why I keep telling black people, stop voting. Stop voting for these rich motherfuckers. They don't give a fuck about you. Don't give a fuck about this country. All they care about to make this country great again, to make this country white again, to make this country Christian again, and making this country, stand out, to have other people come into this country that are rich to try to build these factories and making poor people work for them like they did back in the 1900s, when white people, not just black people, white people and many other cultures had to work for the rich man. That's why I always try to ask white people, why are you so against black people when back then, when white people when white rich people were owning these big businesses, they were forcing you to work for $2 or a dollar or a quarter. These are white people, poor, not just poor white people, but poor white immigrants that were coming from other countries to come to work. They were forcing them to work for these big ass companies, and you had the white motherfucking rich were sitting there forcing poor whites to work for them. And I always want to understand they were basically treating y'all like slaves the same way they were treating black people in many other cultures, by paying them absolutely nothing to live. And there's a lot of poor people today, a lot of poor, illiterate people today that are struggling to work, to have, to get a resume. You know how hard it is to have a resume? And they're always going to use the resume to get you a job, but they can't use it your work ethic or something that will help you stay at that job for a long period of time, because you work hard, you know how to work the business, you know how to do this and do that. But they're going to try to say, well, you don't got enough on your resume for me to hire you, so I'm going to hire that person over there, even though that person don't have a lot of shit on their resume. But they want to hire them because they get paid less. But us black people, we struggle to find jobs. It's not because we don't want to work, because we do want to work, because we love money. We love the materialistic part of the money. So we will work our asses off when we get a job. But the thing is, they'll force us to work jobs that we never went to school for. Like say if we went to school to be an electrician, we end up being a school teacher. If we go to school to be a mechanic, we don't end up being a mechanic. We end up working for Walmart or we end up working for Amazon. Like we go get these education. Like I said, education is really not what it's supposed to be because I always believe it's called the white man's education. I don't believe anything has to do with black people because education really wasn't created for black people. It was created for white people. It was created for them to still have control. Like I said, Rockefeller is the one that created the educational system, and he created it not for black people. He separated black people with education because he knew that if he makes black people smart, black people are the ones that are going to run this country. He didn't want that because he knew black people were smart. He knew black people were great business people and loved to buy land and loved to have things. And we try to get ourselves educated because we were illiterate. We didn't know how to read or write, but we knew how to keep ourselves financed. And Rockefeller didn't like that. He didn't want black people to touch money. So once black people were getting educated, we were taught differently to the white people. White people were taught how to be slave owners, how to be powerful, how to rule the earth. Blacks were taught how to just be slaves and how to work until our hands, until our hands start burning and we start callousing. We work we wanted to we wanted to retire early, but we can't retire early because now Donald Trump is trying to force people to work until they're 70. It's ridiculous. Like, why can't blacks, whites get together and form a unity to fight the most evilest people that are white supremacist people? I believe that they set us up because I believe that we should actually go to the Native Americans and speak to the Native Americans and try to help the Native Americans because we should know what Native Americans feel like once they were taken from their land and Africans were taken from their land. See, the Native Americans can get back their land anytime they feel like it if they want to actually go and get their land back. Africans can't do that. Africans can't go back to Africa because we left that land alone and we settled here. And I believe this is a big, humongous prison that we're flirting on. Everybody talk about Alcatraz. I believe Turtle Island, which it was called before it was called the United States of America by the Native Americans. We are trapped on this land and it's a big, humongous prison. And they're treating us like prisoners. They're locking us up. They're throwing us in jail. They're doing all these things like we're on a prison island. And it's been going on for a very long time. And I believe that the United States is the biggest prison for black people because we can't leave this island. We can't go nowhere else. Even if we try to go to Africa and be citizens, we will complain about Africa and try to get back to the United States because we believe Africa has the rules. They have their own rules. So we don't want to follow nobody's rules. We want to go to Africa. We want to be like like what Africa used to be a long time ago, which is not, because Africa is not ruled by African blacks; it's ruled by the Europeans. So we get mad and we want to come back to the United States because we talk bad about Africa. This is what blacks do. Blacks been doing this for a very long time, going to different countries, complaining and trying to come back because they can't follow the rules of that country. So we're trapped. We can't leave this island. This is nothing but the United States is a very small island because you can fit America in Africa. That's how small America is. You can actually fit the whole continent of America in Africa. That's how big it is. That's how Africa. That's how big Africa is. So the sad part about being a black man in America is fear. Going outside, enjoying, trying to go to the bar or trying to go to a club or trying to hang out with friends, but you know that you got like 20 cops sitting there watching you. And they're being told, well, you need to make a stop. Go over there and lock that black man up because you need to work. So if I stand on the corner and I'm waiting for the bus, a cop pulls over and asks me, what am I doing? I'm like, well, I'm waiting for the bus. I've been out here for an hour waiting for the bus. Oh, it looks like that you look suspicious. Come here, let me talk to you for a second. Go over, stand over here. And they start frisking you, which is illegal, because you need a warrant. Not a warrant, but you need to have probable cause to search somebody. But they'll search you for no fucking apparent reason. Then they'll make up a story to arrest you. And next thing you know, they want to get in a fight with you. And knowing that you're not resisting, they'll still beat you up. And they'll throw you in a car. They'll drive you to the police station, do the same exact thing, even though they're on camera. They'll do the exact thing. They'll beat you down, and they'll tell you that you resisted, and they will say, like, if you go to court and you tell them, well, they beat me, they have proof. The judge will say, well, it was a right that they did that. Like, they'll write out a piece of paper saying they had probable cause to do what they had to do, and that's the violence of being a citizen of this country, knowing that the police officers work for the citizen. The citizen doesn't work for the officer. That's what they get their fucking mind all fucked up, because a lot of the cops don't know the law, or they pretend like they don't know the law, or they don't care about knowing the law. They are very, very vicious now. And they're in black neighborhoods. They're all over the place. Like, I never see so many cops in a black neighborhood, and then you see them less in a white neighborhood, because they think white people don't kill each other. And they do, and they do the same thing as black people do, but they hide it. Like I said, with CNN and Fox News, they don't show the news, or they'll pop up a couple of times. A family's massacred by this white man, but they'll say, well, he had mental health, he had health problems, he was dying of cancer, or whatever. We're going to give him a pass. But if a black person does that, oh, we need to lock this man up for life because he's a terrorist to the whole fucking foundation of the city. So we need to lock them up for life. They'll give them 3 life sentences, you know, or they'll give them a harsh sentence for having a gun with bullets in it. Because like they said, they made a law that they count the bullets, in a gun. That means they can give you time. And it's crazy. It's crazy. First, they give you the right to carry. Now you can't carry a gun with bullets in it. What is the point of having the right to carry if you can't have your gun and it's licensed and you can't have bullets in it? It doesn't make any sense. Why can cops have a gun but citizens can't? Why can they carry guns and rifles, semi-automatics, but people that are normal that have gun rights can't carry their own gun on their hip? They can carry their gun on their hip, but they can't show their gun. But a cop could be inside of a fucking store with a gun, or walk the streets with a gun, but a normal person can't, because they be looking as fear, and a cop will actually shoot at them. Even though they have a license, they'll still try to shoot and kill that person for having a gun. It's so sad. And the pyramid is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's getting bigger than the Giza pyramids. The Gaza pyramids is crazy. That how my pyramid has so many steps to them. I can't say all this stuff, 'cause I didn't want to make this video long, but they have so many steps that is pure evil, and racism exists because racism will never disappear, because you got to make money off of racism. You got to make money off of hate. You got to make money off of fear. And if you don't do these things, people will criticize you, and people will try to put you down through your opinion through social media, like telling you that you're hateful, you're evil, just because you have an opinion about something that they don't like. If you don't like their president, they'll attack you. If you don't like their government, they'll attack you. If they don't like what you're talking about, if it has to do with anything that has to do with media or just social, they'll attack you for it. If you even write something on their post, they'll attack you for it. Even if you write something about that has something to do with being important, they will attack you, because they don't know anything about rights. So they thinking that you live in America, they can attack you for whatever you say out your mouth. And it's not fair to just a culture of people that want to spread their opinion out there to the world, to tell people what is truth and what's not truth, but without throwing up a fact check, which they like to do all the fucking time, because you don't have the right to your own opinion, because they want you to believe what they preach and not believe what you preach. It's crazy. It's horrible. This is the reason why this country's falling apart, because of hate, slander, fear, This crazy fear is the biggest issue in this country. And it's always going to be a big issue to this country is fear. You can't walk down the street without hearing about somebody being hung, in a park or near a casino. It's crazy. They're still doing that. They're still lynching people after 200 years, and they try to ban lynching. But it's never going to fucking happen because of the fear of, just being a black man or a black woman or a black child or even a mixed child. It's fear. It's sad. It's the meaning. And we can't wake up every morning and be happy that we're alive. We gotta wake up every morning and hoping that we make it through the day, hoping the cop don't stop us, hoping that somebody don't walk into a Walmart while we're shopping and start shooting us up, or our Denny's or anywhere that we want to go and enjoy ourselves. We are the ones that are more in fear than white people. I don't understand. Like, black people don't go into a white neighborhood and start killing white people. We don't do that. Only white people go into a black neighborhood and start shooting up a black neighborhood for no apparent reason. And they're the ones that cause us terrorists. It's crazy that you're starting to see this a lot in America, that they're blaming black people for terrorism. And black people don't terrorize anybody. We just try to live our lives. Yes, we're very territorial, and we would defend our neighborhood from tyranny and hate, but we do attack each other. I don't know why, because the younger generation don't know anything about being black. They only know about attacking each other because we are jealous of each other. And those are the seven. Those are the seven deadly sins of the step. The seven deadly sins of the step pyramid. I got a lot more, but I don't want to talk about it right now because a lot of people are going to attack me for what I believe. Because the reason why I posted Charlie Kirk, because I want people to see that man as being a man that really did a lot to hurt black people and make black people look like we are still the same people that we were 200 years ago, and we're nowhere near our ancestors. We try to build through legacy and try to build through family. But once you took that away from us, then we struggled, and we're still struggling. And when we ask for help, y'all will say, well, we'll help you, and we'll never get help from y'all. So we got to do things our fucking selves. We got to go out there and make our own money. Even we got to sell drugs, or we got to do something crazy to make money because we're looking to survive. We're not looking to die. And a lot of these motherfuckers out here are just looking to die. And we're not looking to die. We want to live in peace. We live in peace and harmony. We want to live to, to be 80, 90 years old. But that's not going to happen if you're not giving us any chance to live that long. Because you're taking everything the fuck away from us little by little. And we're going to end up with nothing. Like I said, 13% of blacks in the United States is a very small percentage. Once we disappear, I think the white man's going to be lost. Just like they were lost during slavery. Once slavery is over, they were really upset that slaves were set free, and they wanted to keep the slaves, but they couldn't keep the slaves because of the abolishment of slavery. And they were so upset. They said, you know what? Since we can't have slaves, we're going to destroy slaves. We're going to destroy the black man and the black woman. We're going to destroy them. We're going to separate them. We're going to take away from their children. We're going to do so much bad stuff to them that they will never, ever, ever, ever go out there and persecute us ever again. And that's the reason why I made this video. I'm off. I can't keep my eyes open for some fucking reason. That's what I do. I took that Gavin Pitton, but I'm hoping everybody stay blessed. Please. It's not a hateful rhetoric towards white people. I just want white people to understand that the steps of the pyramid that I talked about is really honest steps of the pyramid. Now, if you want to go to racism, I got that up there near the top. So, thank you for listening. Bless.